Hey, welcome back to Global Environment. Last time we were together, we started to talk about biomes. And even before that, we talked about the global heat engine. So we said the biomes were responding to that global heat engine. And now we're going to talk about individual biomes and you know, why some of them are kind of neat. And we're going to start out with a type of forest to begin with. And it's interesting because forests really only make up a small percentage of the Earth's surface, but they make up about 70% of the primary productivity on the planet. So they're important when it comes to biogeochemical cycles. So let's look at some pretty pictures I've collected over the years. Okay, so the first one we're going to look at are tropical broadleaf evergreen forests, tropical rainforests. And this map shows you where most of those are located. You can see near the equator. We're thinking Hadley cell again, in Africa, South America, in places like Indonesia, and other places in Asia and Mesoamerica. And again, I said forests only make up a small percentage of the Earth's surface, maybe 38%, but they have about 70% of the primary productivity. Tropical rainforests only make up 6%, believe it or not. Okay, here's a shot I took in Puerto Rico. You know, what do you see here? What are some important features of tropical rainforests that you should keep in mind? One is the production, biomass production. Tropical rainforests are one of the most productive environments on the planet. And, you know, in some cases you'll see that the net primary production of a tropical rainforest is about 2,000 grams per meter squared per year. That's a lot of productivity. Another thing you notice here is we're looking at this picture. There's all types of different trees and plants. There's high biodiversity. It's pretty amazing. Along with coral reefs, tropical rainforests have some of the highest levels of biodiversity. And for comparison's sake, if you're looking at a tropical rainforest, you might find, you know, in an acre, 300 different species of trees. And if you look at a comparable area, you know, acreage in a place like New York, where I am right now, you might only find 5 to 30 different types of trees. In a 25-acre plot in the tropics, you might find over 700 trees. It's pretty amazing. Another thing you might see are that these environments are layered. It's actually very dark near the floor. They're driven by rainfall, tons of rain, 2 to 4 meters you know, per year, and they're a bit sunlight starved. So that's something to keep in mind. There's also plants fighting for that sunlight, and on one tree you might find up to 100 other plants living on that tree. And those are called epiphytes. And that's something you should keep in mind. Again, large trees. Another thing to remember is that it was a great surprise to Europeans that came to South America when they saw all this productivity, because they expected the soils to be very rich. They said, we're going to clear this land, we're going to grow great crops, but soils in tropical rainforests are pretty poor. Most of the nutrients are tied up in the vegetation. Any nutrients that make it to the soil are washed out by the high levels of rain. It's also, you should also keep in mind that it's not incredibly hot. It's warm, but because of the rainfall, it's a bit cool. It's usually around 25 to 28 degrees Celsius. Now, you also have some diversity in animal life. This little guy here, I met on a mountain in Puerto Rico. I almost ran him over. And I actually backed up my car and popped a tire in the middle of the rainforest. That was not fun. All right, here's you see the little pale guy in there? That's me. A lot of water again, beautiful, great place to visit. So I would suggest you get yourself to a tropical rainforest. All right, so there are other biomes that are related to tropical rainforests. There's a mini biome called cloud forest. Here I am standing, well, you don't see me, but I'm taking a picture from a rainforest in Puerto Rico at a cloud forest. And again, driven by fog, and This shot is great here from Nicaragua. It shows you the orographic effect that we talked about. Air parcels moving up the side of a mountain, depositing rain, you get fog. You can get a cloud forest in an area like this. So it's often driven by orographic effect. Now the plants are a little bit different, shorter, shrubbier, sometimes a little bit interesting. Maybe you've heard of chupacabra. There's chupacabra there. It exists. Really an interesting place to visit just because of the differences in the size of the plants and the types. Now let's move into some other biomes. Now we talked about tropical rainforests and cloud forests, but there's a set of forests that people rarely talk about. And these are called dry seasonal forests. And here's a shot from Costa Rica. Dry seasonal forests in area actually make up twice as much area as tropical rainforests. People don't realize that. Very few people have heard of dry seasonal forests. Now, how are these dry seasonal forests different? They have very seasonal rain. Tropical rainforest, there's basically rain year-round. In these areas, there's usually one dry season, and plants have to respond to that. They have a number of ways to do that. Sometimes they drop their leaves. Sometimes they turn their leaves. Sometimes they close their stomata. So productivity is a little bit lower here because they're subject to droughts. What's also interesting is that these areas are much more in danger of logging than tropical rainforests, believe it or not. Okay, here's a digital elevation map of Eritrea in East Africa, and orographic effect here helps to produce some dry rainforest. Here's a soils map. We're going to concentrate on the coast here and look at some dry seasonal forests. You can see this is a rainfall map. Green colors, a lot of rain. Oranges and red, very little rain. Right in this area right here, there's an escarpment. The elevation drops quickly. There's some neat dry seasonal forests in here. Now here's a shot of me when I was in the Peace Corps with some language instructors I worked with. This is a dry seasonal forest in Africa during the wet season, so very green. Here's another shot by a school. And here's what a dry seasonal forest can look like in the dry season. And it's interesting, in this region here, you still have a little green. There's an underground river here. Here's a shot from a bus. Looks very different during the dry season. There's another shot from a bus. Most of the leaves are gone. Biodiversity, a little less. Here's some characteristic animals in the Americas. Productivity, again, a little lower and a lot warmer in this case. So we're going to stop here and break off for a bit, and then we're going to come back and look at even more biomes, if you can believe it or not. All right, see you next time.